Welcome to Not Suitable for Democracy, the show about the good, the bad, and the corruption in American politics. I'm your host, Nick, and on today's episode, we're diving in to the Michigan primaries for Congress. We are going to review some of my favorite races: Michigan 1, Michigan 7, Michigan 12, and Michigan 13. These are my favorite four, and we'll also touch on Abdul El-Sayed and his victory for the Democratic primary for United States Senate in Michigan. So this is an exciting show with a lot to cover, so without further ado, let's get into it. Real quick, make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You won't want to miss the next episode where we dive even deeper on Abdul El-Sayed's victory in the Senate primary in Michigan. Now, back to the show. Before we jump into Michigan's first congressional district, just know two things about Michigan primaries. Number one, they are open. See, now in New York, we have closed primaries, meaning you have to be registered as a Democrat to vote in Democratic primaries. Not in Michigan. In Michigan, they are open, so you are allowed to be a registered Democrat, Republican, or Independent and vote in a Democratic primary. However, you're not allowed to split your ticket, meaning if you are a registered Republican and you want to vote in the Democratic primary, then you cannot also vote in the Republican primary. You can only vote in one. And it may explain why some of the polling was off in the state. The second thing to know about Michigan is that their primaries were on August 4th. So by that point in time, we already saw the victory in Texas, where James Tallarico's campaign won out in the Democratic primary, another open primary in Texas. But seeing how the news and the headlines shaped that victory to then shape what happened in Maine between Graham Plattner winning, then rescinding and suspending his campaign, dropping out, for then Troy Jackson to become the Democratic nominee for United States Senate, and then what we saw in New York on June 23rd when Zohran Mamdani sent 3 Democratic Socialists and Progressives to Congress. So think about our closed primaries in Deep Blue New York and how the headlines and narratives have been shaping the primary season all the way to August 4th. So now we begin in Michigan's first congressional district. This is the top portion of the state where it's very cold, very wooded. So with this district, we know that there were 3 candidates running. The top 2 that I'll be talking about are Callie Barr, who had actually run before in 2024, and Kyle Blomquist. So Kyle Blomquist, he was my favorite in this race because, number one, he ran as a Democratic Socialist. He was endorsed by Northwestern Michigan chapter of DSA. He was championing, Medicare for all, reallocating our budget at the federal level, but also pushing back against Democratic Party leadership. He was even saying that while it's good that we have, a wide coalition among voters, which, in an open primary you should do, he made it very clear that he wants a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party. He was on a podcast saying that. So as much as I applaud Kyle Blomquist's strong socialist credentials, strong progressive platform, I think his messaging could have been refined. While he did have a good campaign to run on and he did have, some support on the ground, he wasn't able to necessarily amplify that message. Not because it was a bad one, but because he was outspent. Now we have some numbers here from when Callie Barr actually ran back in 2024. Now, this was not Callie Barr's first time as a candidate. When she ran in the Democratic primary in 2024, get this, she had won that Democratic primary with 58.5% of the vote. And from there, she earned 40,787 votes. That is great. She won against an older gentleman who was just not really meeting the moment, and he came in second with 41.5%. That was about 28,000 votes. So while she had this experience already between organizing, building a campaign, but also general election experience. So going through that general election, she wound up losing to who is now the incumbent. So not only did she raise a ton of money, right, but she was able to use those campaign coffers for this congressional race in 2026. So Callie Barr, she came in with a huge advantage compared to Kyle Blomquist. Now, while Callie Barr ran as a center-left Democrat, she also had a really good chance at fundraising. So according to one full year of fundraising, Callie Barr had raised $721,986. That came from 90% of grassroots donations. So she did really well capturing, the energy on the ground, also local Democrats and institutional groups, right? Good for her. And then, of course, Kyle Blomquist, this was his first time as a candidate in 2026, and he could not match that. In his past year of fundraising, he had raised $223,494. So Callie Barr outraised him more than 3 times. So the 3 times of the amount of money, that is why Callie Barr was able to navigate the electorate better this time, why she was able to get her message out, but also drown out Kyle Blomquist, where his message did not resonate or cut through the noise in the same way that Callie did. So congratulations to Callie, who won that congressional primary, and she did so, fairly well, even compared to her last time around. When Callie won in 2026, Callie Barr came in first with 56.3% of the vote. Granted, that is 2.2 points down of the vote share compared to 2024. However, she did earn a 15% increase in her vote count, where this time she had 46,924 votes earned. So that's 6,000 more votes than last time. So I got to give her credit. If you can build on the work you did, then that is phenomenal and should be applauded. And, Kyle Blomquist, he had the organizing from DSA, he had volunteers on the ground, he had, the real grassroots energy that's looking to change the party leadership. And unfortunately, he just came up short. Kyle Blomquist came in second place with 35% of the vote, and he earned 29,176 votes. I give him a lot of credit for putting it out there that we can run a DSA candidate even in northern Michigan. But hey, this was his first time running, so now will he be able to not only build that coalition with Callie Barr, so then Callie Barr can win the general election against the Republican incumbent and hopefully make Michigan a little bit more progressive?